statements contained in this presentation have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. The products discussed are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Okay, good morning everyone and good evening to those who are in the US. It's always good to see you all. Today is Monday in the US and Tuesday here in Manila. And every Monday we have our doctor's call. So for today we'll be having Dr. Mario Ramirez, who would be talking about the mind diet. Now, for those who are new, let me just read the background of Dr. Mario. Dr. Mario is an orthopedic surgeon at the Philippine Orthopedic Center. He finished top of his class at the University of the Philippines. He heads dengue and dietary nucleotide study, and he also heads clinical study dietary nucleotide in children with neurodevelopmental disorders and autism. Here in the Philippines, he's a member of International Society of Nutrigenetics and Nutrigenomics. Okay, Dr. Mario?
Yes, Francis, thank you. All right, let me share your screen. The topic today is about dementia. If you have noticed for the past few trainings, I've been talking a lot on diet and food and I've been researching food as a means of letting it be your medicine, that food be your medicine. Being a member of the International Society of Nutrigenomics and Nutrigenetics, I actually right now is interested in a lot of the benefits of health manipulation via food. This is one of the things that I have. It's a new diet. It's a new thing right now. And I just want to share it with you guys. And the scope of the lecture will entail the following: that we will talk about, number one, what is dementia and how is it different from the other illnesses that you have out there. We will also talk about what the mind diet is, how it differs from the other diets that you know. We delve also on the Mediterranean and the DASH diet. I will talk about that too. And I'll give you instances and the food that you have to take that are included in the mind diet and food that you have to avoid in the mind diet. And I will top it up with the worst food that you can eat for your brain. Hopefully you guys can take notes so you won't forget. First thing first, let's talk about and see what dementia is.
Dementia is a word we give to a set of symptoms affecting different aspects of thinking and brain function that get worse over time and affect the way we live our lives. Dementia is not a normal part of aging. It is the result of physical diseases that damage the brain. Everything that makes us who we are, our personalities, intelligence, emotions, our hopes and our fears, are driven by this incredible organ. The brain is the most complex structure in the known universe. Intricate networks of brain cells, bundles of nerve fibers, and hundreds of miles of blood vessels all work in careful unison to keep us ticking every day. Every second of our lives, nerve cells in the brain are firing. But when these cells become damaged and their connections start to break down, a person can develop dementia. The area of the brain where this damage occurs determines the symptoms a person experiences. If nerve cells in the back of the brain are damaged, a person's vision might be affected and they may have trouble reading words or climbing stairs. If nerve cells in the side of the brain are damaged, communication and language skills can change. There are 4 main diseases that cause dementia. The symptoms of these can overlap, sometimes making them difficult to tell apart. While each disease has characteristic symptoms, these can change from person to person depending on which areas of the brain the disease is affecting. Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia. Often, one of the first areas of the brain to be affected by Alzheimer's is the hippocampus. The hippocampus controls aspects of our memory and navigation. So, forgetfulness and getting lost are usually some of the first symptoms of Alzheimer's. In Alzheimer's, nerve cells are damaged by a buildup of 2 proteins in the brain, amyloid and tau. These proteins are present in all of our brains, but in Alzheimer's they behave unusually and begin to clump together. Researchers are still trying to understand what triggers this, but it's likely to be a mix of age, genetics, and other factors such as poor heart health. The buildup of harmful proteins is also a key factor in other diseases behind the condition, like dementia with Lewy bodies and frontotemporal dementia. This damage spreads from one area of the brain to another as the condition progresses. So symptoms get worse over time and people begin to find more aspects of day-to-day life difficult. Dementia with Lewy bodies can affect different areas of the brain, leading to a variety of symptoms including changes in attention, sleep problems, and hallucinations. The processes involved in dementia with Lewy bodies are similar to those involved in Parkinson's disease, and people with dementia with Lewy bodies can also develop Parkinson's-like symptoms such as shaking and slowed movement. Vascular dementia can occur after someone has had a stroke or the blood vessels in their brain are in poor health. While the other diseases that cause dementia spread steadily through the brain over time, vascular dementia can progress in distinct steps after an event such as a stroke, slowing a person's ability to think, plan, and pay attention. Unfortunately, there is currently no cure for any of the diseases that cause dementia, and no treatments that can slow or stop the spread of these diseases through the brain. Researchers all over the world are looking for new ways to tackle these diseases and protect precious nerve cells. Their work has the power to offer new hope to millions of individuals and families whose lives are affected by dementia. To find out more, search Alzheimer's Research UK.
All right, so I love this topic because one of the things you have to understand that it's generally agreed that illness that says that when you get old, you get dementia, but this is not the fact. It's not your end game, all right? And let me tell you what we can do about treating and helping out with people with dementia. So the most common cause of dementia is actually Alzheimer's, about 60%. It is a general term which says that dementia are caused by abnormal brain changes. This triggers a decline in thinking, cognitive ability. It could be severe enough to impair daily life and independent function, needing some care or at home. So it also may affect behavior, feelings, relationships. So it's like an umbrella term. So dementia is an umbrella term for loss of memory, other thinking abilities, which interferes with daily life. So the most common, like I said, is Alzheimer's, which accounts for 67 to 80%. There are Lewy body dementia, vascular dementia, which is an hypertensive vascular event, frontotemporal dementia. Others like Parkinson's is also, and Huntington's disease is also one of the things that you have to understand can cause dementia. So there usually it's a mixture. It's not only Alzheimer's. It could be a mixture of vascular and Alzheimer's together, or Parkinson's, Huntington's with the vascular dementia. And you have to understand that currently there is no treatment for dementia, but researchers, particularly when I got into the membership of the Nutrigenomics, International Society for Nutrigenomics and Genetics, a lot of research are being done right now on how to tackle the problem of dementia with food. And I would like what I've come across and what we've been discussing with the nutrigenomics. So dementia is actually the most prominent sign and symptom of dementia is memory loss. So most of the time it's short-term memory. You forget where you placed your purse, your wallet. You forget where you place your keys. Sometimes you forget to pay your bills, forget whether you're going to sleep or going standing up from sleep. All right. Those are already beginning signs of dementia. You forget appointments like Zoom appointments because you travel and sometimes you wander out of the neighborhood, you wander out of your house and find that you're in somebody else's house. That's a big problem. Okay. That could get you killed. But the good thing is that it could still be managed. All right. That's the hope that I would like to impart in you. And we will be talking about a few diets. And one of the things is the mind diet. So what is a mind diet? The mind diet is basically It started in 2015 when they tried to find the relationship between food and the effects on our health, particularly the effects on brain health. The research actually intended to show and slow down decline of brain health as we age, which is common in senile dementia or Alzheimer's. And the goal also is to reduce the risk of development of Alzheimer's. Thus, the Mind Diet was created. And the Mind Diet actually stands for two diets, a Mediterranean and DASH intervention for neurodegenerative delay diet. So it's a Mediterranean DASH intervention for neurodegenerative delay. All right, we will be talking for more about this. The highlights actually of the Mind Diet is that its goal is to reduce dementia and the decline in brain health that usually occurs as we age. It is interesting to note that in the 1960s that the Mediterranean diet was actually the buzzword of the industry. That's the idea of the Mediterranean diet is to decrease coronary heart disease and vascular disease. And they found out there were fewer deaths in countries that are surrounding the Mediterranean, particularly Greece, US, compared to those Italy, compared to those in Europe and the USA. So subsequent studies actually associate with the risk factor of cardiovascular disease. The diet decreases the risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Now, what is the Mediterranean diet then? It's basically a diet based on traditional Mediterranean cuisine, typically high in vegetables, whole grain, beans, nuts, and seeds and olive oil. Components of the Mediterranean diet says that you have to consume daily amounts of vegetables, and let me say fruits. They emphasize, the Mediterranean emphasize fruits. I will tell you more about this later on about the fruits. And good and healthy fats, which is the unsaturated fatty acids, the unsaturated fats like olive oil, canola, sunflowers, soy, corn, nuts, seeds, and fish. It also stresses the weekly intake of fish, poultry, beans, and eggs. Moderate portions of dairy products, so less dairy products like cheese and milk, and a limited intake of red meat. The other important aspect of the Mediterranean diet is actually a shared meal, because in Italy we share meals with friends and family and we enjoy a glass of red wine. And also, they do a lot of walking, physical activity. Now, let's talk about DASH. DASH diet is actually a dietary approach to stop hypertension. So it's geared towards preventing and treating high blood pressure. So, whereas the Mediterranean is geared towards your heart and vascular problems, DASH is for hypertension. So it's specific for hypertension. So the DASH diet includes food that are rich in potassium, calcium, magnesium, that could help and control blood pressure. The DASH diet limits the intake of sugar, saturated fat, and sodium in particular. So, if you are taking a lot of low sodium diet, you have to be wary of what you're eating, especially the supplements you're taking. Like I said earlier, that the sodium ascorbate can increase your blood pressure because it's the sodium component of the sodium ascorbate that is actually causing an increase in blood pressure. So the studies have shown that the DASH diet can lower blood pressure in a matter and as little as 2 weeks. So 2 weeks on a DASH diet, your blood pressure will go down. The diet also encourages low lipodensity lipoprotein, okay, LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. And they want you to take more of the good cholesterol, which is the HDL, which is the good cholesterol. So high blood pressure and high cholesterol, high HLDL are actually one of the things that is a danger for hypertensive. There are risk factors for heart disease and stroke. And you can see here the Mind diet and how does how does the Mediterranean and the DASH diet incorporate with the MIND diet? So in September 2015, in the Journal of Alzheimer's and Dementia, one of the doctors there, a colleague from the Rush University Medical Center, studied the dietary connection between food, cognitive decline. And then she borrowed from the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet to plant-based diets to develop a meal plan that boosts the brain. And thus in 2015, the MIND diet was born. So mind you that this diet is one and encourages the consumption of food that are good to promote cognitive health or brain health. So the basic of the MIND diet is that the diet combines two diets, two well-known diets, the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. And the Mediterranean diet, as all you know, is for the Mediterranean countries, are the diet or the food that is being used and eaten by the Mediterranean countries, while the DASH diet comes from the studies and clinical trials that are funded by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. So the basic for the MIND diet is the goal is to reduce dementia and a decline in brain health that usually occurs with age. So if you age, you have to mind what you're eating. Okay, otherwise your mind will go away. So mind the food that you're eating. Specifically, the MIND diet differs from DASH and Mediterranean diets in the following categories. Number one, the MIND diet emphasizes berries. So strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and even berberries, okay, could help with increasing blood flow and because of their antioxidant properties. So it helps with the brain, reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease and cognitive decline. It is recommended that you take berries, more berries compared to other fruits. At least eat fish once per week. The highlight and difference between the green leafy vegetables. So the MIND diet encourages green leafy vegetables compared to the other vegetables. They also encourage the use of other vegetables like the lycopenes from tomatoes. The MIND diet, therefore, urges both green leafy and other vegetables that are actually essential for reversing vascular injury, reversing cognitive decline. So the highlights, the food emphasized on the MIND diet are the whole grains, the berries, the green leafy vegetables and other vegetables, olive oil, poultry, fish. Although there are only few epidemiological studies that are published on the MIND diet, because it has only been around since 2015, the adherence to the MIND diet is associated with a reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease. So those who are proponents and are strictly adhering to the MIND diet reduces the risk of Alzheimer's, could also help with other problems with the brain like Parkinson's, Lewy body, or anything that could interfere with brain function. So more researchers are likely to come because of these findings, and the dietary guidelines for Americans recommended that the increased consumption of fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, healthy fats, whole grain, and a decrease in consumption of saturated fats. You go Google the saturated fats. I don't have to explain them. All right. So the guidelines for the MIND diet is number one, there are 10 food that you have to take and about 5 food to limit, okay? So that includes the 5 you have to take. You eat greens and other veggies, berries, nuts, olive oil, whole grain, fish, beans, poultry, wine. Not one bottle of wine per day, but only a glass of wine per day. The food that you have to avoid, butter, margarine, cheese, red meat, fried food. So fried chicken is not good for you. And other sweets. Okay, again, here are the quantities and servings that you have to take. The 9 food you have to take. The green leafy, about 1 serving per day. 1 cup of raw. Of spinach, kale, collards, Swiss chards, mustard, greens, turnip greens, dandelion greens, arugula, envine, grape leaves, romaine lettuce. I eat a lot of romaine lettuce, especially at night. All right, so try to put tuna, romaine lettuce and tuna in oil. Other vegetables, at least one serving or 1/2 cup of the vegetables like asparagus, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, tomatoes, eggplant, etc., etc. And peanuts, almonds, walnuts. I love walnuts. You have to take more walnuts, cashew nuts, pistachio nut, or try to avoid the nut. Also, some nut butter, peanut butter. Berries, at least 5 servings a week, so one a day. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, berberries. Beans, 3 servings a week, about 1/2 cup per serving. A black pinto, garbanzo, kidney, lima beans, red white beans, navy beans, lentils, tofu, hummus, soy, yogurt. Take a lot of yogurt. I know a few of you loves yogurt. Whole grains, 3 servings per day, so 1/2 cup per day of whole grain, dark whole grain bread, brown rice, a lot of brown rice, avoid the white rice, whole grain pasta, wild rice, quinoa, barley, oats, whole grain cereals, fish, at least 1 serving of fish per week. So not fried, fresh fish, salmon, tuna, tilapia, cod, mahi-mahi, halibut, etc. And poultry, at least 2 servings of poultry. Again, not fried chicken, white meat, skinless chicken, turkey breast, the best, and extra virgin olive oil, 2 tablespoons per day of extra virgin olive oil, looking compared to the EVOO later on. Extra virgin olive oil is made out from pure cold fresh olives, whereas the regular olive oil is a blended, which include the cold pressed and processed olive oil. So extra virgin is very good. All right. 5 food you have to avoid: red meat, no more than 3 servings per week. So avoid but not necessarily remove. So beef, lamb, pork, ham, burgers, hot dogs, sausages, bacon, roast beef, just 3 servings per week. Then butter and stick of margarine, 1 teaspoon per day. Use the extra virgin olive oil instead. Regular cheese, no more than 2 ounces per week. Full example are the full fat cheeses, pastries, and other sweets, no more than 4 treats per week. Biscuits, pop tarts, cakes, snacks, sprinkles, Danish rolls, donuts, brownies, candy bars, ice creams, puddings, milkshakes. Fried food like French fries and fast food, no more than one a week. All right. So fast food and other casual restaurant food, any food that includes fried potato, you avoid it. And try to take only one meal of the fried food or fast food a week. So the 10 food you have to eat in the MIND diet are the green leafy vegetables, aim for about 6 servings per week, like kale, spinach, salad, other vegetables like tomatoes and carrots, broccoli, the non-starchy vegetables, the berries, nuts, walnuts. You take a lot of walnuts. Olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, whole grain. Choose the whole grain that has like oatmeal, quinoa, brown rice, pasta, 100% whole wheat bread. Fish at least once a week, like salmon, sardines, trout, tuna, mackerel, which high in omega-3 fatty acid. Beans, lentils, soybeans, yogurt, poultry. Try to eat chicken or turkey once a week, but not fried chicken. Remember, it's bad for you. You have to avoid butter, cheese, red meat, fried food, pasta, and sweets. So the mind diet and according to researchers, the mind diet and health can help in both the Mediterranean and the DASH diet, lowers the blood pressure and decreases the risk of cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. In contrast, Only a handful of studies, epidemiological study, examine the effects of mind diet on brain health. So it's still a new field and a lot of research are being done right now. But the mind diet has been shown to be associated with a slower cognitive decline and reduced risks of Alzheimer's disease. So if you take to heart the mind diet, I believe you won't forget that you're still married. One of the theories behind the health benefits of food emphasized on the mind diet is because it is rich in antioxidants, which reduces oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is defined as an imbalance between the production of free radical and antioxidation defenses. And the prolonged exposure to oxidative stress, particularly in the brain, can cause brain damage and cell death. Additionally, with the combination of the Mediterranean and DASH diet, it also improves your heart health, reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, as well as blood pressure. Then those diets included in the mind diet can decrease the risk factor for Alzheimer's. So you have three very good problems that are being addressed with this mind diet: your heart, your blood pressure, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. Although the mind diet, conjunction with the other healthy diet like regular exercise and other habits like exercise, avoid smoking, getting enough sleep, and have a positive effect on cognitive. There are other factors, of course, that impact the development of Alzheimer's. And presently, we have no cure, but there are things that you have, supplements that you can take that could also help in preventing the development of Alzheimer's. And we will talk about that later on. So, how does the mind diet work to boost the brain health? The focus of the mind diet is the intake of particularly limiting also particularly the animal products that are high in saturated fatty acids. The diet urges a higher consumption of berries and green leafy compared to the other fruits and vegetables out there. So, according to the annals of neurology, fueling up with the flavonoid producing berries can, like blueberries, strawberries, grapes, blackberries, can improve and prevent cognitive decline in women, but up 2.5 years. So it prevents and delays the decline 2.5 years compared to those who are not taking the berries. Also, there is a link between green leafy vegetables such as spinach, kales, and lower inflammation and oxidative stress, two factors that are associated with Alzheimer's. In the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and both types of food, the green leafy, are rich in antioxidant, could help reduce inflammation and oxidative stress. So again, oxidative stress occurs when the antioxidant defense is very low and the body cannot fight the toxic molecules, the free radicals that are in their body. And this stress causes damages to the brain and throughout the other cells of the body, lead to Alzheimer's and cancer. So how does the mind diet differ from the other diet plans? Although the diet from the mind diet does not specifically involve exercise, physical activity can also prevent cognitive decline because your movement increases blood flow to the brain, helps supply brain cells with nutrients and oxygen. So regular physical activity, walking for about 30 minutes a day, reduces the risk of Alzheimer's. Biking a few minutes a day, a few kilometers or miles a day could help reduce Alzheimer's disease for up to 50%, according to the Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation. Therefore, exercise in conjunction with the mind diet further protects you from being forgetful. I hope I have stressed that, the importance. Now, what are the benefits and risks of the mind diet that you should know? The most obvious and promising benefit of the mind diet is that it significantly and clinically reduces the risk of Alzheimer's. This has been proven in researches. In 2015, when they started the mind diet study, they evaluated the incidence of Alzheimer's amongst 923 participants and followed them closely following the MIND, the DASH, and the Mediterranean over a period of 5 years. Study found that the MIND diet lowers the risk of Alzheimer's disease by 53%. Oh my goodness. You won't forget 53%. Now I remember, particularly those who owe me money. Another exciting revelation that you have to follow the diet strictly to enjoy the brain boosting benefits. Who moderately follow, who are not strict in the diet, in following the MIND diet, who moderately follow the diet, had 35% reduction of the dementia, as the authors noticed. Still, the upside is that comparing to being 7.5 years younger cognitively than those people who are not following the diet at all, and they reported this in the Alzheimer's and Dementia's Journal of Alzheimer's Association. So those who are following the diet is 7.5 years cognitively younger, cognitively, compared to those who are not following the diet. Also, the reduction of Alzheimer's disease, MIND diet, can also reduce the risk of Parkinson's. Let me stress that. So a MIND diet not only reduces Alzheimer's disease, but also reduces the risk of Parkinson's. So again, there is a correlation between other brain diseases and the MIND diet. So go ahead and eat a lot of those berries, okay? Helps you with your diet. So sometimes it's not only what we have to drink in terms of the synthetic medicines in particular disease or illness, but we also have to have that with supplements and the food that we are eating to cut down the risk, because this has been studied and this has been closely studied by scientists, and it is positive effect to both the Mediterranean and DASH diet. So you could experience a lot of those diet effects, good effects of the Mediterranean and DASH diet. So the DASH diet apparently helps in reduction of hypertension. It diminishes the risk of stroke, heart attacks, according to the Mayo Clinic. The Mediterranean diet is also another popular diet touted by dietitians. The study published in Progress in Cardiovascular Diseases shows that there is improvement in blood pressure, reduced risk of heart disease, and better insulin sensitivity. Patients decrease risk of heart diseases, and manages prediabetes are better when taking the Mediterranean diet. So the only disadvantage of the MIND diet is that, if you call it a disadvantage, it requires patience, effort, and careful meal planning to do. So to ensure that you're consuming the right amount of food servings, you have to have a dietitian guide, a diet's guide. You have to prepare your food. That's the only disadvantage compared to the fast food. All right. And we all know that we sometimes are tempted to eat those easy fast food, the easy things that are on hand, like the noodles that we have, compared to preparing a healthy diet. So according to the MIND diet pioneers, ischemic stroke causes the brain to age 3.6 years every hour the stroke symptoms go untreated. If the longer that you have a stroke, your brain is aging 3.6 years every hour that the stroke symptoms are being untreated. So if your blood pressure is high, you've got a stroke, every time it remains untreated, your brain is aging 3.6 years until such a time that you have an old brain in a young body, in a 40-year-old body. And that is why it's likely to explain why stroke survivors have doubled the rates of dementia compared to the general population. So, and almost 20% of the stroke survivors develop dementia in the future. And how to tackle this? Again, the MIND diet. So, here is what we need to understand. Using food as medicine, plus the supplements, food as your medicine together with your conventional medications, it is imperative and important. Since the MIND diet was being used and discovered since 2015, studies have shown that slow cognitive decline in healthy adults who are on the MIND diet. So the study of healthy Chicago residents that found that those who tend to follow the MIND diet functioned as if they were 7.5 years younger than those who were least adherent to the diet. That means those on a diet were 7.5 years brain healthier than those who are not. So, a study comparing the Mediterranean, DASH, and MIND diets and octogenarians who had suffered stroke was presented in the International Stroke Conference, and the study found a 20-year difference in cognitive function between those or compared to those who are most adherent and versus those who are least adherent to the MIND diet. So there's a 20-year cognitive decline. So a lot of science had actually been showing that the positive effect of the MIND diet. All three diets actually encourages lean meat, fish, whole grain, fresh produce, olive oil, and discourages the use of salt and soy sauces. They do have some important differences. So the MIND diet deviates from the Mediterranean and the Dutch diet because it restricts the type and amount of fruit, vegetables to be consumed. So there's a restriction in fruits and veggies that are about to be consumed. The MIND diet specifies eating berries, but no other fruits, only berries compared to the other diets. Also, it limits the eating dairy products and potatoes. So throw those potatoes away, your potato chips. And eating no more than one, and encourages eating more than one meal of fish a week. So try to eat more fish for the omega 3s. So how is the MIND diet unique? It suggests green leafy vegetables plus one other vegetable per day, while the Mediterranean diets encourage loading up on fruits and all kinds of vegetables. And in terms of dairy products, the MIND diet to limit the use of cheese and butter, but the Mediterranean diet encourages the consumption of dairy products in moderation and allows egg. The MIND diet specifically eliminates food with unhealthy effects on the brain, like red meat, processed meat, fast food, fried fast food, sweets, pastries, butter, sticks, margarines, and whole fat cheese. So cannot for MIND diet. So let me give you the 7 worst food for your brain. Food that you should not be taking. Number one, sugary food, sugary drinks, because sodas, sports drinks, energy drinks, fruit drinks, even the fruit juices in cans are high in sugar and should not be taken because it pads your waistline, it boosts your chances of getting a type 2 kind of diabetes and heart disease. It has a negative effect on your brain, increasing also the risk of Alzheimer's disease. High sugar levels can also increase the risk of dementia because the sugary drinks are high in high fructose corn syrup, which contains about 55% fructose and glucose. So the summary for sugary drinks, a high intake of sugary drinks because of the high fructose corn syrup may impair and become harmful, cause brain inflammation and impair your memory and learning. And although further studies need to be done, this is the general consensus for the study. High intakes of fructose can lead to obesity, high blood pressure, high blood fat, cholesterol, triglycerides, diabetes, arterial dysfunction, and increased risk of long-term dementia, reduced brain function, memory, formation of brain neurons. It is actually the formation of the brain neurons that is actually one of the things that is hallmark in dementia. You cannot, as you saw from the first part of the video, that the brain formation of tau proteins, okay, proteins that are not good for the brain, can lead to a decrease in the brain formation of brain neurons. One study in rats showed that the high sugar diet increases brain inflammation and impairs memory. And the rats that consume 11% of the high fructose corn syrup are worse than those who took diets of 11% regular sugar. So high fructose is worse than just taking the regular sugar, the white sugar. Another study showed that high fructose diet, the rats gained more weight, had worse blood sugar control, higher risk of metabolic disorders, and impaired memory. Some alternatives that you can take for sugary drinks: you can take water, unsweetened iced tea, vegetable juice, the ones that you can do yourself, blender yourself, unsweetened dairy products, refined carbs, refined carbohydrates like bread, pastas, chips, not whole grain, and sweets, desserts with added sugar. These are the refined carbohydrates. They cause inflammation in the hippocampus, the brain, the part of the brain that is affected, that is responsible for memory. It is also responsible for hunger and fullness cue, the hippocampus. So inflammation is a risk factor for degenerative diseases, particularly Alzheimer's and the other types of dementia. In one study, elderly people consume more than 58% of their daily caloric needs of carbohydrates. The study found that almost double the risk of mild mental impairment or dementia, that doubles the risk. All right. So avoid carbohydrates. Refined carbs also affect the brain. Example of children aged 6 to 7 who consume diet high in refined carbohydrates, lower nonverbal intelligence score. And this study shows that the refined carbohydrates causes lower score, and simply because the two factors related. So you take low glycemic index carbs like vegetable, fruits, legumes, and whole grains. Summary is that refined carbs with high glycemic index and glycemic load may impair memory and intelligence and cause an increased risk of dementia. And the sugar and high processed grain like white flour, sugar, and white flour bread should be avoided. Food that are high in trans fat. Trans fat is a kind of unsaturated fatty acid that is detrimental to the brain. They occur naturally in meat, dairy products, although not a major concern. It is the industrial use of trans fat, like a hydrogenated vegetable oil, that's a problem. Artificial trans fat can be seen in food shortenings, margarine, frostings, snack foods, ready-made cakes, prepackaged cookies. And there are studies that shows that people who consume high amount of trans fat have an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease, poorer memory, lower brain volume, and higher incidence of cognitive decline. So highly processed food, okay? I know a lot of you guys love processed food. That includes your Hungarian sausages, your hot dogs, your tocinos. They are high in sugar and added fats and salt. Chips, sweets, instant noodles, okay, microwavable popcorns, sauces, ready-made meals, microwave meals. They are high in calories, low in other nutrients, causes you to gain weight. It has a negative effect on brain health. A study with 243 people showed that increased fat around organs or the visceral fat is associated with brain damage. And another study with 130 participants showed that a measurable decrease in brain tissue, even in the early stage of metabolic disease syndrome caused by the eating high processed food. So Western diet has a negative effect on the brain. It contributes to development of degenerative diseases. So avoid those McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, fast food Western diet. A study that includes 52 people found that the diet high in unhealthy ingredients resulted in lower levels of sugar metabolism in the brain and a decrease in brain tissues. Another study with 18,000 people found that diets high in fried food and processed meat are associated with lower scores in learning and memory. So if you're getting very low scores and your kids are very having difficulty in school, avoid fried food and processed meat. Another study, large-scale study of 5,000 plus people, the diet high in red meat, processed meat, baked beans, fried food are associated with inflammation and a faster decline in reasoning over a span of 10 years. And in animal studies, Rats fed with high fat, high sugar diet for 8 months showed an impaired learning ability, negative changes in brain plasticity. Um, Another study in rats fed with high calorie diet, there's a disruption in the blood-brain barrier. And the blood-brain barrier, as you know, is a membrane that between the brain and the blood vessels from the rest of the body. It protects the brain by preventing some substances from entering. And one of the ways processed food can negatively impact the brain is by reducing the production of the molecule called the brain derivative neutrophil factor. We will not be discussing that. This molecule is found in various parts of the brain, like the hippocampus, and it's important for long-term memory, learning, growth of new neurons. Therefore, any reduction in this molecule can have a negative effect on its function. So the summary is that processed food contributes to excessive fat around the organs, and there is a decline in brain tissue, increased brain inflammation, impaired memory, learning, plasticity, and decreases the blood-brain barrier is affected. Aspartame, okay, aspartame is an artificial sweetener and the kind of sugar-free products, okay, zero sugar that you can find in food, in drinks, and it has been linked to behavioral and cognitive problems. It contains phenylalanine, methanol, and aspartic acid. Phenylalanine crosses the blood-brain barrier, disrupts reproduction of neurotransmitter. Additionally, it is a chemical stressor that increases inflammation and the vulnerability of the brain to oxidative stress. It also, one of the studies shows that the higher rate of depression and worsening of the mental test in patients who are taking aspartame. Another study of people said the artificially sweetened soft drink had an increased risk for strokes and dementia, although they did not specify the kind of sweetener they used in the study. A study with repeated aspartame intake in mice showed that there is an impaired memory, increase in oxidative stress. But despite all these studies that they say that could cause some problems cognitively, aspartame is still considered to be safe sweetener overall, but do not consume it at the recommended dose, about 18 to 23 milligrams per pound. So that's about 40 to 50 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day or less. So summary, aspartame is an artificial sweetener. It is safe and generally considered safe, but try to avoid it as much as possible. Let's go on to alcohol. Okay, we're talking here about chronic alcohol use. Chronic alcohol use results in reduction in brain volume, metabolic changes, and more importantly, disruption in the neurotransmitter. One of the things that is actually happening in dementia is that the brain cannot communicate with the other neuronal cells. And when that happens, this communication pathway are interfered and you tend to forget things. And people with alcoholism have also a tendency, a deficiency of vitamin B1, okay, which could lead to problem brain disorders like Wernicke syndrome or Korsakoff syndrome. These syndromes are distinguished by severe brain damage, memory loss, disturbances in eyesight, confusion, and steadiness. Further, they said that the alcohol consumption during pregnancy has a devastating effect on fetus, can cause toxic effects of the alcohol, can cause development disorders like fetal alcohol syndrome. So chronic use, okay? The effects of alcohol in teenager, particularly damages to the brain, which is still developing. Alcoholic beverage, more particularly when mixed with energy drinks, is a lot more concerning because number one, this drinking of alcohol plus energy drinks impairs driving, increases risky behavior, and increases the risk of alcohol dependence. There is also alcohol can also cause some disturbances in sleep patterns. So drinking a large amount of alcohol before going to bed causes you to have a poor sleep quality and can lead to chronic sleep deprivation. However, moderate consumption has some beneficial effects, including heart health, reduced risk of diabetes, particularly when you drink moderately wine at 1 glass per day. So moderate consumption of alcohol intake has a positive effect, particularly with wine. Excessive consumption can lead to memory loss, behavioral changes, sleep disruption. So it could be the higher risks are those in the teenager, young adults, and pregnant women. So fish that is high in mercury. Mercury, let me stress this, is a heavy metal contaminant in the sea. It can lead to neurological poisoning of the brain, and can accumulate in the brain and live in animal tissue for a long, long time. So long-lived predatory fishes are particularly susceptible to accumulating mercury and can carry large amount of over 1 million times the concentration of the surrounding water. So for this reason, the primary food source of mercury is actually from seafood, particularly the wild variety. After the patient ingests mercury from seafood, it spreads throughout the body, concentrating the brain, the liver, the kidneys. And in pregnant women, it could pass a placental barrier and accumulate in the fetus, causing some central nervous system toxicity, neurodegenerative toxicity, transmitter function, neurotoxins resulting in brain injury. So, developing fetus and young children can have a disrupted brain function that could lead to cerebral palsy, attention deficit, autism. So, however, most fishes are not significantly high in mercury. Pregnant women and children should avoid or limit high mercury fish like shark, swordfish, tuna, king mackerel, tilefish. However, they are safe if they can have about 2 or 3 servings low mercury fish per week. So, again, let me stress that mercury is neurotoxic and can be harmful to developing fetus, young children. The primary source of the diet of fish are the sharks, swordfish, tuna. So it's best you to limit these fishes, particularly the surrounding waters where these fishes have been uh, caught, is very high in mercury. So let me show you this short video.
Eating certain foods can help preserve brain function. There's mounting scientific evidence that shows sticking to a method called the MIND diet can make a difference in your risk of cognitive decline and dementia, including Alzheimer's disease.
MIND stands for Mediterranean Dash Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay.
Mayo Clinic wellness dietitian Angie Murad says the MIND diet is a combination of 2 other healthy diets and includes a variety of brain-friendly foods.
What it emphasizes are leafy greens, berries, nuts, specifically ones that are high in omega-3s, fish, and also including an additional vegetable as well as the leafy greens.
The benefits of the MIND method go beyond just the mind.
Anyone can really benefit to it because it's more of a plant-based diet, which also helps reduce weight if that's something that you're struggling with.
Foods to avoid or limit include butter, cheese, red meat, and sweets. For the Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Vivian Williams.
To end, it is imperative to understand that the diet plays an important role in your health. Not only that, there are supplements out there that could increase the possibility of your body to regenerate because the cells, before it divides into two, one cell before it divides into two needs to divide and duplicate its DNA first. And for you to have that, you have to have a supplement of nucleotides. So diet, supplement of nucleotides, and exercise for a better brain health. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you learned something and hope you don't forget what you learned.